and welcome to Exit Only Theaters episode number 4.
Woo!
But today's a special episode because we are doing strictly a review and a specialized breakdown of our Cinema Cinco. As you know, as of last week, we kind of have like this little competition for everyone to kind of see what our next movie review is going to be. And it was either going to be Terminator Genesis or it was going to be Magic Mike XXL. As you can see.
Judging by the ulterior motives of a few of you, I'm sure.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing what I do, but there was a dark day when we tallied up the votes and saw that we got bamboozled by Magic Mike XXL votes.
I would not say it that way. That's not exactly what happened at all. Actually.
So basically, in sum, we had to review. And I say had to review. I had to review. She was gladly reviewing.
I was already in line. As
yeah.
soon as I saw that the votes were tallied, I was in.
So we went to see Magic Mike XXL. And so today's show, we are going to be reviewing specifically this particular film.
We're going to take it seriously.
Yes.
For the most part. There's enough to talk about in this movie, I think.
Yes.
I think.
But before we get on, I just want to introduce ourselves again. My name is Adrian Alderette, and across from me is...
JP Lee.
Alrighty, and with that, we could get started. So, we saw Magic Mike.
Initial reactions?
And initial reactions, I'd like for you to kind of go first, so I could just keep my my dignity.
Keep your composure.
Yeah.
All right, gather yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm coming at it from the fact that I saw the first one in 2012.
Yeah.
Also in theaters. I don't know what that says about me, but.
At midnight.
No, not quite. But there were a few drunk women behind me, so I wasn't the worst person in the place. Anyway.
We'll talk about that later.
My initial reaction was that I had no expectations going in, and those expectations were exceeded on the way out. So I don't know. I still, having left the theater a couple days ago, still not quite sure. I think it was good. I know it wasn't great.
That smile on your face told me something else. I sat right. This is
so,
the thing. Like,
so glad we weren't.
Everybody. This is the thing. I was sitting right next to her, watching this movie.
I was sandwiched between Adrian and my husband Jonathan. So that was an interesting.
And it was let's just say like we heard no noises coming from her.
I didn't know how to react. I didn't know where I could. I was like, oh, the dancing's really good. That's all I'm reacting to is the dancing. Yeah. Like I couldn't enjoy the film for some of the gratuitous things that it had, but...
All right, but you liked it.
But I liked it. Overall, I liked it more than I think I should have, actually.
Okay.
How about you?
I say this as, let me just set this up. Imagine being a single straight guy on a line full of women at the box office, basically saying, hey, I'd like just one single ticket for Magic Mike XXL. And the guy just like looking at me, there was a pause, and he's just like, here you go, sir.
He busted out laughing. But the funny thing is, we kind of hung you out to dry, because Jonathan and I bought our tickets together, as married couples do.
Yeah.
But we were behind you, and we just kind of sat back and let that happen. We could have joined you, but we didn't.
You didn't. You created a space. You created a space. You left me alone with the dude selling me the ticket.
That 17-year-old selling
and he's
tickets
like, would you like...
What's happening?
And of course, him being a smartass is like, hey, would you like a poster? Oh, the one with the giant naked dude on it?
That's right. There was like a group of ravenous women like fighting over the last few posters.
Yeah. I've never seen women fight for anything.
It was like that scene in Mean Girls. Like, people were actually physically attacking each other for like a 17 by 11 size poster.
We went to see this in the Southington movie theater here in Connecticut, and it was primarily... This is the thing. We were in line to watch this movie like around, what was it, 6 p.m.?
7? Yeah,
it was like 7 p.m.? Everyone in line was going to see Magic Mike XXL.
Yeah, I don't think there were any guys to see Terminator.
And there was no woman younger than 35 years old.
Except myself. I'm 26.
I take that back. There was no woman younger than 35 that was not married.
And not here for a podcast purpose.
Yeah. And obviously I was that was the only single dude in this theater.
Yes he was.
Yeah. But that being said, I say this wholeheartedly. This was actually a very entertaining movie.
There we go.
Yeah, and I'm very secure with my manhood, although I call my physique into doubt after watching that movie. I think it was very entertaining. I liked it. I thought for what it was trying to do, it was awesome. And I'll never watch it again. at least
that's totally fine. I mean, there are a lot of movies like that. So.
I'll do my best to recreate scenes when I do find a girlfriend. But let's just say I have a long ways to go in the gym.
They get paid a lot of money to do that, though.
All right, but we'll get into the technical aspects of the movie.
Yes.
Okay, but like here's like the first serious question I have for you, like as far as like as a female.
Yes. As a lady.
Which performance got you the most hot and bothered throughout the entire movie?
Okay, so I will rephrase this. What was the most effective sex appeal scene?
What performance had you sweating the most is what I'm asking.
Sitting right next to you, so nothing like that happened. Because you were sitting right next to me, it would have been so awkward. Yeah. Although the seats were very comfortable. Anyway, that was completely aside.
I bet they were.
They added recliners. Sorry, that's just changed my life. That's my favorite movie theater, and they just added something fantastic. Anyway, I'm trying to change the subject, if you didn't notice. I'm going to make a choice, and I'm going to answer you because I'm a woman of my word. I'm pretty sure it was the scene at Rome's when Channing Tatum, his character Mike, had to prove that he still had it.
He's still the whitest of chocolate.
Yes, his alter ego at well, we'll get into some of the plot, but his alter ego in a former life was white chocolate. Yeah. If that doesn't say enough, and that sequence was meant to be purely gratuitous and purely, this is a really crazy situation, but it worked. I mean, it's exactly what, and the other actors and the other dancers did a good job in the scenes they had, but that particular one I think was the most effective.
Let's just say that everyone in the theater, if they had a number, they would all be holding a 10 up.
Yes.
Without using their hands.
Oh yes, and fanning themselves just.
Yeah, exactly. But no, that being said, like that's kind of a good transition into like start getting to the more specific parts of the movie, because this is a movie and we're gonna break it down as a movie. That being said, this movie was not. There wasn't a lot of. It was pretty clear what it was trying to do. Like you said, I know we talked about it after the movie. It was porn, but not necessarily the way you would imagine.
No.
Not like
porn with the quotation marks.
It was porn because. It was obviously dedicated and to women.
It was eye candy.
It was eye candy, but it was also ear candy too. Everything they said, everything they did was not just like, oh, here, woman, we totally love you. It was to say
it was a little smoother than that.
It was smoother than that, and it was very well dressed.
The movie had game.
Yeah, and that's very well said. You could say the game was XXL. Ho ho!
We're falling off the rails. We're not even 10 minutes in.
You should have seen the women falling off the rails. I'm not gonna lie.
That's why we sat toward the front, so we didn't see anyone behind us.
All right, so let's break this down piece by piece. What do you, if there was a message to this movie, what do you think it was?
Ooh, okay. From what I've gathered from it, at a very basic level, it is one of those journey type of movies, like that band of misfits has to go from A to B. And at the end of the day, it's not really what they accomplish, it's how they go about accomplishing it, which is kind of a funny tongue-in-cheek moment in the movie where Mike is saying, like, don't make me make that speech of, it's not about the destination but the journey, and it's the speech I just made to you just now, oh my god, I can't believe I just did that.
Yeah.
That it's very tongue-in-cheek, it's a little clunky in the way they deliver it, but that is essentially what this movie is, and I always like movies like that. I give those movies the benefit of the doubt, and I continue to do so with this one, so...
No, and, that being said, like, pretty much, like, what the movie, at least on paper, what it's about is pretty much, like, what the synopsis was.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to go into the movie and read the synopsis, which is as follows, it's picking up the story 3 years after Mike bowed out of the stripper life at the top of his game, Magic Mike XXL finds the remaining Kings of Tampa likewise ready to throw in the towel. But they want to do it their own way, burning down the house in one last blowout performance in Myrtle Beach, with legendary headliner Magic Mike sharing the spotlight with them. On the road to their final show, with whistle stops in Jacksonville and Savannah to renew the old acquaintances and make new friends, Mike and the guys learn some new moves and shake off the past in surprising ways. So basically, that's literally what the movie was about. Yeah. But, like, surprisingly, what surprised me a little bit more was... there was a little bit more going on, not necessarily like in a ridiculously deep level.
No, but there's subtext in it.
But there was definitely like the character development was actually pretty good.
Yeah,
like they actually did a good job where not so much Magic Mike because like we were in the movie and this is a spoiler review.
Yeah,
so like we find Magic Mike, he's working in a moving company. He started it by himself and it's just him and one other guy. You could quote unquote say he's successful.
By his own right.
but you could tell like he has to really work to get by.
Absolutely. And they don't tell you everything that's going on in his life, which I think was a nice subtle touch. Is you learn to see you kind of grow and learn to figure out what's going on in his life as the movie goes on.
Yeah, so. And like we totally see that, you know, like we didn't need the whole thing. Like it was literally just him at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, you know, let's move along. He lives alone. You know, is he depressed? Who knows? But, you know, he's doing what he wants to do, per se. It's not as easy, but, you know, as it was for stripping.
It's a different kind of fulfilling.
It's a different kind of fulfilling. And then it all changes when he gets a phone call from the Kevin Nash character. Obviously, if you guys know Kevin Nash from like wrestling, like, I was like, dude, it's Kevin Nash. I did, because I didn't watch the first Magic Mike. So, like, the dude who's known as Tarzan gives him a call saying, dude, some dude died that they used to strip with. So that's what kind of kicks everything off. It was just a lie to kind of get him to come down. So he's like, hey, man, we're all going to Myrtle Beach. Prepare yourself. We're going to perform at the convention. They never say... It's a convention. It's like the big convention.
Yeah, everyone's supposed to kind of know what it is.
That's the thing. Like, and that's what was cool about it. It's like it's, you know, like this is the year of the 80s comeback, because it's basically like this. It's like there's always that one big event.
Oh, of course.
At the end of the movie.
That's
that we have to
device.
Perform.
You just kind of accept it because
one last ride.
Yeah, for sure.
On my balls. But it's basically just like that. But the character, like I was saying before, like the character development was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, and specifically, like every person kind of had their little moment to shine. Some delivered, some didn't.
I completely agree with that.
And in that, like to kind of transition into that, where do you think were some of like the better? Now there were some really terrific dancing performances, but we'll get into that later.
Right. But
who do you think was the best acting performance that you saw, and least favorite?
Okay, my least favorite. Oh my god. I genuinely like the way that Channing Tatum pulls this character together, because there is of course there's a lot of semi-autobiographical stuff, some sort of nuggets in the first one. I don't know how true the second one is at all. I know, sure, the camaraderie with a lot of the fellow male entertainers, as they say in the movie. Yeah. A lot of his friends, I'm sure there's a genuine relationship with what he had in real life, but I feel like he brings the movie together in a way that makes this like band of misfits work. Yeah. Whereas I think some of the other characters, there are moments where each of them have they each have weak moments that kind of like drag the movie down a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know if I have a weak performance that I can specifically point out, but I know he was my favorite part of it, and, that just could just be me being like, oh, I liked him in the first one, so that just carries on to this one. Yeah. But, I mean, there's a reason why the movie's called Magic Mike. I mean, it's centered around him. They specifically want him to go on this adventure with them. Yeah. But, I don't know. I don't have a least favorite. I think they all had moments of weakness, if that makes sense. Okay.
All right. Well, for me, like, since I didn't watch the first one, so I have nothing to go off of.
Yeah, completely different.
I'll say this, like, Channing Tatum he did struggle, because the love interest, if there is, like, I don't even know if it's a loose term, love interest. Like Amber Heard's character, she's in the movie, she plays this photographer who's kind of just on the road, and they meet at the beach at night. And they kind of just flirt back and forth with each other, but it never really leads to anything.
And I think the lighting of that scene throws it off, too, because I almost can't make out who it is.
Yeah.
And it's fine, because it's dark and it's realistic.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of like a ploy to kind of like get women to say that could kind of be you.
That's true, too. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's a ploy to kind of say, it doesn't matter what she looks like, you're getting hit on by Channing Tatum.
Right, so you just see him and nothing else. That's a good point. I never thought of it that way.
That being said, like, there were, like... the flirting scenes between him and her they were brutal, man.
I completely disagree.
This is the thing, like, you say that, I remember we talked about it, you think that in context of the first movie. I think of that and just from this movie alone, and it was brutal. It was just like, it was kind of like they told him, like, hey, let's go off script. And I don't think that's Channing Tatum's game.
Yes and no.
Unless it involves his fucking moving his... Sorry. As long as it moves his moving his hips.
He feels very passionately about this.
Yeah.
No, okay, so I understand that, like, Channing Tatum, from the start of his career to even now, his physical gifts as a dancer kind of outweigh anything else he's capable of doing. But that being said, just to give you a quick nugget, Cody Horn was the main actress in the first one. Mm-hmm. The side chick, quote-unquote, in the first one was Olivia Munn. Yeah. And... she had like 3 minutes in the movie, and she stole the show, obviously, because she's Olivia Munn. Yeah. And Cody Horn couldn't hold... she had no chemistry whatsoever with Channing Tatum's character. Yeah. So it may be unfair to compare them, but
it was better for you.
It was exponentially better. It was still awkward and clunky, but that's also kind of realistic, because I've never encountered, never been a part of, never witnessed any kind of game where there wasn't a little bit of realistic awkwardness, because that's a little endearing. If you can kind of build a rapport with someone off of the awkward stuff you talk about the first time you run into each other, that's kind of, it's genuine enough.
That's true.
I like the scene in the kitchen. I don't know.
That scene in the kitchen was well done.
The best one of the three.
But I feel like in real life, yeah, I agree that every kind of like first conversation when they're flirting, there is that bit of awkwardness.
You're weirdly trying to step up your game.
That being said, in a film though, like it has to flow in the script, and it was just really all over the place. And you could tell that's why they probably wung it. They're like, oh, you're charming. You're like, we had McConaughey last movie. Let's see what you can do here. And then all of a sudden you're just like, they're just kind of like, it kind of seemed like just two like high school kids.
I think it went too long. I think that's what it is.
And that's why
if it was more concise.
That's why like I feel like if it was too long for us in the movie, imagine how bad it was in the editing process.
Yeah.
Like where it's just like
how much they had to lose.
Imagine like it's like Tatum. You have like we have 2 hours of Tatum trying to hit on Amber Heard and none of it's working.
Right.
Let's try to
because him talking doesn't usually work. It's when he dances that he really seduces people.
That's the thing. And like I won't completely blame him. Maybe the director's like, hey, just we're gonna go improv. Let's see what you can do.
And his improv in comedy, I mean, in 21 and 22 Jump Street, he did really well. I mean, say what you will, I think that was actually him stretching to a certain extent. But at the same time, you can't really do that in a romantic setting. It doesn't necessarily work.
Just to kind of close off like Tatum's like performance review, I'll say this. Obviously as a comic book movie fan, I know that he's going to be playing Gambit in a movie next year.
That could have been the lens you were watching.
And that's that's why I was very critical. I wanted to see, okay, this is like Gambit. This is his baby. This is something that he put together on his own.
Right.
And I know it's hard to kind of have multiple hats as producer and actor at the same time. That being said, I'm worried. Because I know his range is limited, but when you have a project that from because it's pretty much based off you,
right? And
you're kind of in those scenes, like I understand, like Gambit's supposed to be charismatic. He didn't seem very when it came to trying to like woo a lady outside of using his hips. It was very difficult to watch. And I'll just say, I'm worried, but that being said, I think physically, like, it's the same thing everybody knows. It's like, I haven't seen Foxcatcher yet, but I feel like that's a better way to gauge it. But
he's really good in that movie, so I think he has had roles, we've talked about a guide to recognizing your saints. That movie definitely shows a side of him that I think he's capable of bringing out. It's not a Gambit type of thing, but it definitely shows range. So there's potential there. I think I liked his performance a lot more than you did, but different lenses.
Yeah. All right, so the next thing we want to talk about is how well shot it was. Because I remember after the movie, and I'm pretty sure when you watch it, well, unless you're a lady, like, you're not really going to be paying attention to the technical things the first time you watch it.
Right.
But when I was watching it, I noticed, like, especially during the dancing scenes and everything, this was really well shot.
Yeah. Really well edited as well.
It was really well edited, and, for those of you who don't know, Steven Soderbergh, who directed the first movie, actually helped shoot this movie and also edited the movie.
Yep.
And I preferably, maybe this is better that he does for this kind of movie. Kind of sit back and let someone else kind of deal it. Because from what I understand, the first one wasn't as good, and he directed it.
Yeah.
But let's get into like how well shot it was because specifically, I want to point out one sequence in the movie when we're at when they get to, I believe it's Savannah, and they go to Rome's kind of like her strip club, quote unquote.
It almost feels like a completely different movie in a good way.
Yeah, and like you go in there, it's the color wise, it was brilliant because it looked like you were in a fancy high class strip club.
Yeah.
And not only that, but when they were shooting the dance sequences, and even like Donald Glover's, like when we find him at the top of the stairs and he comes down. And they don't cut back forth.
No, it's very intentional.
It's very intentional because they want to capture the performance.
Yep, and the reactions of everyone specifically.
And you'll notice that when you watch some of your favorite music videos, when it comes to people, like for instance, like if you like Chris Brown or like if you go back to like Omarion and all this stuff, you take longer shots because you want to capture every movement.
It's impressive. What they're doing doesn't need help, basically.
Exactly, and basically what they did that, especially with Malik's character. The basically like Rome's #1 dude. It was really well done. Really, really well done.
In a very tight space,
It was really tight space.
It's in a mansion and in one of these small compartmentalized dining room kind of settings.
They did an amazing job with that.
They did
and it basically like they made, and this is the thing, like when you watch this movie, you'll assume you're like, oh, it's a road movie. They're going to a bunch of different locations. technically you could shoot that in your own neighborhood. This movie was pretty cheap to make. I don't have the numbers of like what it cost.
No, but there's no special effects. Post is next to nothing.
No, and it's basically like the only thing you probably had to pay for was the rights to the music they used at the end.
Right.
But man, dude, like they pulled this one off.
And speaking of the scene in Rome's brothel, so to speak, is the fact that they do a lot of the setting, a lot of the camera work is at eye level of the women. So speaking to how it's meant for a female audience, you're almost feeling like you're in that room with them. Yeah. And it works really well, I think. So. And
I guess the last really technical thing that we want to get into is I didn't see the first one.
Yeah.
And this one, the character Dallas, who was played by Matthew McConaughey in the last film, is referenced a lot because they're like, oh, what happened to Dallas? He's like, oh, well, he went out and he did his own thing.
Right.
He kind of like abandoned us, quote unquote.
Which could have been enough. That being said, yes.
Did this movie, was it missing McConaughey? Did you think it needed McConaughey back in there? Because that guy's level of charm is something else.
It's two-sided. Obviously, Matthew McConaughey in anything is, at this point in his career, probably better than if he was not in it.
Yeah.
But that being said, him not being in this film, they incorporated him into it enough that it made sense. Like, it wasn't just like, oh, Dallas up and left us, he took the kid and ran, which is the line they gave in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But they actually incorporated the fact that these guys, there's something that changes within all of them because they all realize they don't need Dallas.
Okay.
And that's something that they realize in that sort of Molly infused sequence on the van.
Which was very like that's the thing. There were some like
silly moments.
Yeah, there were silly.
But I think them kind of losing focus and kind of going a little crazy. Actually, their chemistry worked in that scene. Yeah. If something else didn't, it wasn't because of them. It was just it was a good scene for the most part. But they talk about it. He's like, "Why did you dance like a fireman?" Oh, because Dallas picked it. That's right. And I didn't necessarily know where they were going in that scene, which was kind of refreshing for me. I was like, you're right, you don't need Dallas. So it was kind of nice that they added that layer, as opposed to just saying, like, oh, we didn't cast him. You know?
It was clever writing, because I'm pretty sure if they could have got him, they probably would have loved to have had him back.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Either whether he'd be, like, the antagonist or whatnot, it doesn't matter, but...
You could be competing.
It was clever writing. Yeah, it was very clever writing.
I agree.
And that's what the one thing this movie did really well. It was very clever.
Yeah.
Because like I remember like when you hear my review for like Jurassic World, or like if you ever heard me, for the people that talk to me at work or back home, when I talk about Fast 7, you know, when you sit there and you're with your guy friends and you're like, oh hell yeah, car jumping out of building.
Right.
This movie was the same feeling for the group of women that went to go watch it, because when you watch it, as we saw it with a theater full of women to get that energy. And they felt the way they reacted was the same way I would react to a Fast 7 movie.
Yeah,
where it's like
catered to your desires.
It's like everything that you would want from a movie like that.
Yeah.
Is what you got, but like it was turned up to 11.
Yeah,
and it was really well done.
It's like Jada Pinkett Smith's character.
And you get caught up in that. Yeah,
absolutely. Jada Pinkett Smith's character Rome has a lot. She's basically MC of the movie, actually, because a lot of things she says is she's like, you know, you guys, can I call you queens? She's not just talking to the women in the movie. She's talking to the women in the audience. Yeah. Like, this is for you. You know? Whether or not it's 96% viewing audience is women, like they're okay with that. You know, that is what their target was, and they succeeded. And it wasn't what's the word? It wasn't patronizing at all. No. You know.
Yeah, and like I read a number earlier this morning. I forget what the source was, but they said that the percentage of people that went to go watch this movie, over 90% were women.
That's insane.
And like as a movie goer, I appreciate that, because it means that there's something for everybody.
Yeah.
Like I remember there was news a few weeks ago, because everybody was complaining about how Bryce Dallas Howard's character in Jurassic World was kind of objectified to be just this dumb one. This really dim-witted, just like reckless girl.
Very one-dimensional female character.
Yeah, and Chris Pratt was asked, you know, hey, what do you think about how Hollywood objectifies women? And he had a very clever take on it, where he's like, look, you know, it's not that we have to objectify women less. It's, you know, Hollywood needs to objectify men more.
And whether or not you completely agree with that, it's the fact that there should be a meet in the middle kind of philosophy that this movie, I mean, in one movie tries to balance out in an hour and a half, but it does really job.
And that's the thing, like, as a guy watching this one, like, this is the thing, I was going in expecting like frontal nudity, and I thought I was gonna be like really embarrassed. I went in the movie and I was actually entertained.
Yeah.
And I say that, you know, wholeheartedly, as a dude that, you know, was not planning to watch this movie unless, you know, you guys wanted to see it, you guys did, and we saw it, and you know what, like, I was like, I know I'm probably gonna go watch Terminator Genesis later.
Right.
I know I'm gonna enjoy this movie more than I'm gonna enjoy that movie.
And that says something.
That says something. Like for me, you know, and going back to like performances wise, like Jada Pinkett was amazing.
Awesome. She's
like
awesome.
the way she could she's somebody that needs to get more work, man. Like she stole the movie. She stole the freaking movie.
She really did.
Speaking of stealing the movie,
okay,
we're gonna close this off. Our review part of this episode.
Yep.
Because at the end of the movie, obviously they're at the convention. Everybody gets their moment, kind of like their Avengers moment to shine, where everybody shows off. Yeah, everybody gets to show off their ability.
Yeah.
And they all have like their own performance.
Mm-hmm.
And we're both gonna rank which ones we liked in different ways, obviously.
Yeah.
But I want you to rank what your favorite performance was from the convention scene.
Should I just go 5 through 1 really quickly?
Yeah, go right.
I won't even get
rip
specific.
Right through it.
There's an art sequence with Tarzan. That's I think the weakest.
Kevin Nash.
Yeah, it's all right.
He's a beast, man.
But it fits into the narrative of it. We're not with Dallas. We can do our own thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it worked, but I get what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Same thing for the candy sequence. I don't remember the character's name. He's the guy from CSI Miami. I don't know.
That's how everybody knows him. Yeah,
exactly.
He's the one Latino dude.
He's a fairly good actor. It's just that sequence kind of fell flat for me, but I could see what they were doing.
That was the most erotic one.
It absolutely was, and I think number 3 was the wedding sequence with Nick Manganiello. Was that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think that it easily could have been number 2, but I personally liked the singing sequence.
That was a different take on it.
I liked it. It was compassionate, which you don't normally expect to see in like a male entertaining performance.
Yeah.
And then number 1 is obviously the mirror sequence.
And I'm glad you bring up the mirror sequence. Yeah, because at the end of the movie, when obviously Channing Tatum's gonna get the moment to shine.
He's literally
that being said, he and the character Malik share a stage where they have this big frame in the middle of the stage, and basically what they're doing, they have 2 women sitting back to back in the middle to make it seem like they're on opposite sides of a mirror.
It's faking a mirror look.
Holy crap! And basically, like Tatum and Malik go pretty much like they
mirror the entire show.
They literally mirrored each other.
It's one thing
dance moves.
It's one thing to have the same moves, but to have to be like, all right, well, Channing's gonna move his right leg, Malik's gotta move his left, like that. Just to be able to choreograph that sequence.
I'll say this just from a coordinated standpoint, it was terrific. It was really well done. That was my favorite part of the movie, I was just really impressed because, as somebody that used to grow up around guys that dance, obviously not male performer dance.
No, but you can appreciate it.
A lot of my guys in high school were b-boy dancers. Yeah. So a lot of the times when I would hang out with them, they'd be practicing.
Yeah.
And then when you pick up some things on that, then I watch a movie like this years down the road, and you appreciate the movement and the choreography that goes it. And it was so freaking good. And it was shot so freaking good. The music was so well chosen. And not only that, like, they got women riled up.
It did.
And that's the thing, like, all the women in the theater were just, like, screaming. They were like, holy crap. And, like, you can't help but get caught up into it. And you're just like, man, that was really neat.
It's fun to be in that atmosphere for
sure. It was a lot of fun. But that being said, let's overall, like, did you like it? And 2, would you recommend it to somebody else?
I liked it. And having a few people already have kind of gone to see it because we told them it was okay. And they came back to us and they were like, oh, it was so good. So I feel like I would say, yeah, if you're on the fence of seeing it, I would definitely just go see it. Yeah. Like, I mean, if your curiosity is piqued, go ahead, indulge it, you know?
Yeah. So. For me, I'll say this. I liked the movie. I did. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought for what it was trying to do, it nailed it. Exactly. It nailed it right across the board. Yeah, was there some cheesy dialogue? Yeah, but
hell of a lot.
There was a lot of cheesy dialogue. But the thing is, this movie was kind of seen as... It was a bro movie. It really was. You watch this, and it's like all these dudes just hanging out.
Yep. And
they're just like, man, you know, honestly, this is the funny thing. It reminds me of all of my old friends in high school. There was a group of friends that literally reminded me of every single one of those dumbasses.
And that's the majority of the movie. The dancing is only about 25 minutes.
So like, think of like a bunch of like these like meathead dudes, and just like at the end of the day, but like they want to cater to win. That's what they enjoy doing. Yeah, they enjoy the dancing, they enjoy the show, but like there was a scene specifically with Donald Glover's character in the car where he's just
that was a really good
and that was a good scene because like at the end of the day, like the entire movie was like I wouldn't say a tease, but it was a performance for women where it's just like everything you wanted to hear as a woman. It's like, yeah, that's like that's also kind of challenging. It's like, hey, if you brought your man in the movie, like if your husband came in, he's taking notes. He's just like oh, I gotta okay. Donald Glover says I need to listen to my woman. That's all I need to do.
And that's what he said. He's like, we're healers. Like that's it's a cool angle to take. It may be a little self-serving, but I thought it was an interesting look at it.
Yeah, and just to wrap up our review part of the movie, I say go see it. Go see it. If you have a girlfriend, take her, but, you know...
And that's the exact opposite of demographic, and he still says that.
Yeah,
so.
I say that. But then again, we do have a special Cinema Cinco.
We do.
And because of it, like, as you could recognize, I'm a huge fan of music videos and how they're shot and all this stuff.
Absolutely.
I thought this was a good time to kind of bring up and see if we could rank our favorite choreographed dance scenes from movies ever.
That's tough, we've come to find out. It's very difficult.
It's very tough. So we'll start off. What's your number 5, and then I'll go with my number 5.
Okay. I think we're gonna see that my 5 through 1 are a little bit. It looks like an older person skewed. I think would be the best way to say it, because I feel like some of my movies are a little bit in the classic film era, but I think that's kind of refreshing. It's a different take on some of the stuff we've talked about. So. And
it shows the evolution. Like, that's the thing. I'm glad you brought this up, because like the general non-frequent moviegoers be like, oh, old movies, all this stuff. Like, at the end of the day, like, people who make movies reference those kinds of movies.
Absolutely.
People who dance reference old dances.
If you don't have the classics like Gene Kelly, you never have the Step Up franchises. It's true.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like it's kind of like I said, like music. If you don't have James Brown, you don't have this guy. What's his face? Bruno Mars. You don't have Bruno Mars.
I mean, all you need is James Brown. I mean, come on.
Right, so let's get it started.
Okay, so my number 5. Speaking of everything being old, this one's not old, but it's "I Can't Do It Alone" from Chicago. It's the sequence with Velma, and she's trying to get Roxy Hart kind of into her fold. Yeah. That sequence is there's a certain amount of desperation in every dance move. Like, everything's just exaggerated. Like, just the context is that Velma has been arrested for her sister's murder. Yeah. Now she's a one-person act. Her show specifically needs 2 people, and she's trying to get Roxy, who she's hated the entire movie, to join her group. The irony of the entire scene is she's singing "I Can't Do It Alone, I Can't Do It Alone," and she's dancing the entire thing by herself, doing both parts. Yeah. And it's incredible. And it's to find out that Catherine Zeta-Jones was doing this like a few months pregnant. And it basically solidified her Oscar win for that movie. Yeah. Awesome sequence. Yeah. Just the use of, I know...
The chair.
Use of the chair.
Yeah.
It was the one that used the least amount of props and the least amount of the setting itself. Yeah. But used everything it needed perfectly.
She covered so much ground in that scene. I know, because this is the thing, like, I feel no shame in saying this. Mm-hmm. Although even though I'm like trying to direct action stuff,
you have to appreciate other ones.
I love theater. I think theater is awesome.
There's something physically demanding about
it's theater. As a former studier of theater in college, it's very difficult because you have to exaggerate everything. Then you want to put that on film. It's kind of like, how do you find that balance of over the top and meaningful movement? Absolutely. And they find both of those, and that movie secretly is one of my favorite movies ever made. It's been my top 5 movies ever made because of how well it's done, and that sequence is awesome.
That's my number 5.
My number 5 is from 1989. It's from Do the Right Thing, the opening sequence with Rosie Perez. Yeah,
all right.
Because when you match the music and to how she's dancing, where it looks like it looks forced, it looks angry. You capture basically the physical temperament of what the movie's going to be about. It's going to be very...
It sets the tone, right?
It sets the tone, and it's really well done. And I have the biggest crush on Rosie Perez, man. I'm not going to lie. But when you watch that opening scene, you're like... You'll never forget the song, Fight the Power. You'll never.
Absolutely.
It's used throughout the entire movie, but like for me, like the way it was shot, where she's just like thrusting forward, and I'm just like, holy crap, like this is awesome.
And I love that you say that, because good choreography, good dancing doesn't mean that it's perfected. No. If it's saying something, if it's aggressive,
it's expressive.
Exactly.
It's expressive.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic.
What's your number 4?
My number 4, it's Gene Kelly, but it's not Singing in the Rain, because I don't particularly think the choreography of that sequence is particularly astounding.
It felt very freestyle, but go ahead.
Yeah, and it's that scene, he had 103 fever for a week. Like, to do that with all that rain falling on you for a week is incredible. Yeah. But that being said, I picked what's called "I Like Myself" is the song from 1955's "It's Always Fair Weather." Yeah. If you look it up on YouTube, it's basically Gene Kelly tap dancing on roller skates. And
you showed me this morning.
So impressive.
I'll say this, like, I saw this because when we were presenting, like, how we were going to put the show together today.
I wanted to give him a heads up.
You wanted to give me a heads up because there was a lot of these that I know I haven't watched, and she showed me this, and it's amazing. If you haven't seen it, YouTube it. What's it called again?
It's the scene. "I Like Myself" is the song, and he sings in it too, which is incredible. And the movie's called It's Always Fair Weather. It came out about 4 years after Singing in the Rain.
So and we saw it on YouTube. So look it up, and it's
awesome.
Like basically this guy tap dances as he's moving on roller skates.
Never losing the beat. I mean, they use maybe 6 cuts throughout the entire thing. It's incredible.
He goes from the sidewalk to the street and back and forth, and he stops on a dime.
It's
and
majestic.
The thing is, like,
smooth,
and it's really well done. So that's an awesome pick.
Sweet. What's your 4?
My number 4 is a movie that I know you've never saw.
Okay, bring it.
And you're gonna start noticing a theme. It's from the movie Moonwalker from the 80s.
Okay.
And this is a movie that, believe it or not, the song Smooth Criminal that Michael Jackson dances to, this is where it comes from.
Really?
This is from a movie. And basically, when you watch this movie was made just for this song.
That's awesome.
And, like, this one, obviously, like, this is where the Annie Are You Okay Ling comes from.
Wow.
And, like, you watch it, and it's basically just a long music video. And it's just Michael Jackson doing his thing, and like that scene is actually like over 10 minutes long, and it's cut so freaking well. They dance so freaking good, and like if we could do a whole thing on my favorite videos, but we're sticking to film,
right.
Like it just allowed me to kind of pick a Michael Jackson thing.
Hey, I mean, if you can fit it in there, absolutely.
It's awesome. Like the footwork, like the showmanship, the pageantry is really cool. They nailed it. But what's your number 3?
Oh, okay. I don't even know if I can top that. So my number 3 actually is the 1961 film West Side Story. It's the opening sequence. It's about 7 to 8 minutes long.
Yeah.
And for me, there's almost I love this sequence. It's similar to Do the Right Thing in the way that it sets the tone for what to expect from this movie.
Yeah.
I saw this movie for the first time when I was in 5th grade.
Yeah.
I actually can see the box behind you as I'm staring at my DVD collection.
Yeah.
That sequence, as I was a kid, it allowed you. It kind of opened up the box of, okay, this is going to be about gangs, but we're going to dance our way through fights.
Yeah. And
as a kid, you're like, what is this? And by the end of this opening sequence, you're okay with it.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, this is still badass. This is technically, I mean, the proficiency level of being able to do something graceful but also look pretty gritty at the same time. I mean, granted, they're like throwing lettuce at each other. It wasn't the stakes weren't as high as a lot of the intense stuff that happens nowadays.
Yeah.
But that first sequence set the tone for the rest of the movie, and having Sondheim and Bernstein, like, you can't go wrong. No. So that's an incredible.
That was the golden era of musicals in film.
Absolutely.
Like you had a lot of stuff going on, and that one arguably is the best one because you have that marriage of grittiness, because it has the look of something like a Rebel Without a Cause.
Right, exactly.
And yet it has like the movement of something that you would see on Broadway.
And some of it was shot on location in New York, so it added a little texture to it. But that's my number 3. What's yours?
Yeah, my number 2 is obviously from like fan favorite Grease.
Nice.
My
I was
favorite,
hoping you'd make it in
my favorite, like this is the thing, like my family has like this really great love for John Travolta. And I grew up watching a lot of his movies, Urban Cowboy, this one, and a movie I'll reference later.
Nice.
The high school dance scene, because just when they shot it really wide and it's just them going to town on each other, and I was just like it's a lot of fun. And
I tried memorizing some of the dances.
I used to know them actually. I watched it enough where I know them pretty good, and they nail it. It's just you get caught up in it. You're just like, oh my god, like the music's so good.
You feel like you're in that era.
And Travolta, like that was that was in his prime, man.
Oh, for sure.
Like I can't think of anybody acting wise that can marriage like being like Tatum wants to be the next Travolta. He's not.
No.
Because he's like, oh, I could dance, but at the same time I could act. I could be charming. He's not those things.
And then you get Travolta. I mean, you get into an argument about that.
He can't talk the way he does. But no, what's your number 2?
Oh, okay. That's a really good choice, by the way. I'm glad Grease made its way in here. I couldn't fit it in, or else I would have. My number 2 is another obscure. Actually, my last 2 are pretty obscure, but go with me, guys, and look these up because they're pretty awesome. Yeah. It's a 1951 film called Royal Wedding. It's actually, the song's called You're All the World to Me. It's a sequence with Fred Astaire. And I figured you can't really have a movie list. At least one of us has to have Fred Astaire in it. Yeah. Fred Astaire, I couldn't fit Ginger Rogers just because there's not enough time in the day. But this sequence, if you guys love Inception, and you love the sequence with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, this movie did the exact same kind of thing, but 55 years early. Yeah. And it basically, it takes a hotel room, and he's basically singing to a picture of his love. This woman that's making him feel all kinds of ways. And he just dances throughout the room, and he's dancing normally. All of a sudden, he's on the side, and then all of a sudden, he's on the ceiling. And then and he keeps going around, and then in the last minute and a half, it just keeps, like, he's just frantically going. And I want to know how fast the room was spinning, and how he was able to not just run around the room, but he was dancing almost ballet and tap the entire time. Yeah. In, I would say, maybe 5 or 6 takes.
That's amazing.
5 or 6 cuts. It was incredible. I have no context of the movie itself because I've never seen the movie. Mm-hmm. But when I was looking for just awesome Fred Astaire scenes, that popped up, and I was like, that has to make the list. It blew my mind without even knowing context.
And this is the one thing to understand. Like, obviously back in the day, like, obviously things were not shot digitally, so it's very difficult to do things multiple times. So and film has always been very expensive, no matter what area you've been in. They had to have shot that in probably less than a handful of takes.
I had to, probably in a day or two.
So imagine the practice to get. And say, hey, you have to get this right so we don't waste money, and producers are always there, even if you are Fred Astaire.
I was going to say, if you're going to do it, you do it with Fred Astaire, but even that, there's some risk in it. So that's incredible. Look it up, Royal Wedding, just type in ceiling sequence.
Number 2 for me is Flashdance. You're obviously noticing a trend. My era was the 80s. I love the 80s. I would have been in my prime.
I think subconsciously I just neglected it because I knew you'd represent well.
I love the 80s. It was Flashdance.
Nice.
Obviously, the water douse scene. When you watch that scene, it's just when you see her put the effort into how she's dancing, and to where they close up, like obviously, you get the close up of her ass. That's cool, but they didn't shoot that just to show her ass. They showed it because her legs are moving so crisp, and you notice the muscles and everything like that. Yeah. And when you talk to any dancer that watches that movie, they get caught up in that because they're like when you train and when no one's looking and all this stuff, and and then like when you're putting your heart out and everything like that, you don't. It just flows through you.
They single out the technicality of it, which is
exactly,
nice.
And it's shot, and that's to capture that, and she dances her ass off throughout this movie.
Oh, for sure.
And this scene kind of captures how hard she works, and it's a classic for a reason. Like, she's a maniac.
I mean, you can just by mentioning the name of the movie, you get the song stuck in your head for like an hour.
Oh my god! But what's your number one? What's your number one?
My number one, I just keep getting older and older and older. It's the Nicholas brothers in a film called Stormy Weather in 1943. Now, don't leave me yet. Hold on. Just stay with me for a second. It's a sequence that is... Okay, so a lot of movies in the 40s, there was music for the sake of having music. Because just seeing these things on screen put on film was enough to impress people. The thing is that this dance sequence is two brothers who are dancing basically to the music of a big band. But it still holds up now 70 years later.
And they're matching like foot for foot. Basically, it's like it's not mirror. It's not like the mirror. Like it's exactly what each other's doing. But imagine if you're doing like when you're trying to like mimic what the person next to you is doing.
This time in unison.
In unison and trying to like and tap dancing. So you have to make not only the same movement, but you have to make the same sound. And also, you showed me this before the show today,
right?
And I was watching that, and I'm just like. When you watch a mirror dance like what we saw in Magic Mike, you have to reference this movie.
Yeah,
you have
it's
to.
very, very close similarities. You're right.
Because like they're running down the stairs. There's a part where they literally are hopping over each other, going downstairs and
landing in splits.
It's amazing. It's really well done, and you could tell like when you watch it again, they weren't very many takes. And these guys are like, because like the way they used to shoot it was like basically there's like video recording theater.
Yeah, that's exactly. Basically, you're just sit on it and then take as many takes
as you can. And see, it's amazing. So check that out.
Definitely worth it. What was your number one?
My number one.
It's a little younger than this.
Is like probably the greatest macho. The moment every guy or any girl has that when they feeling like hot, like. Pardon my language. When you're feeling like hot shit, when you walk up into the club or something like that, it's Saturday Night Fever.
Nice.
The opening scene, like not the opening scene, but like the first dance scene when you see him in the club. When you have like the lights on the ground, all of a sudden everybody's like, "Oh, get the hell out the way!" And he's just like, "Oh my god!" Dude. And he's just like going at it by himself, himself, and the music's playing. It's like you should be dancing.
I mean, that brought that genre of music to the forefront, and that scene, I think,
everything, and that put Travolta. Like, if women weren't dying for Travolta at the time, like, they saw that was the Magic Mike of their that was Channing Tatum of their time.
It's bigger collars.
This guy just like he's fully clothed, but he's just like, I'm just gonna dominate this dance floor. And every dude that goes to the club, do you think you can pull off a white suit, man? You can't.
Go for
it's
it.
Travolta.
But you're not gonna be as good as him.
It was so well done. Like the dude to do that on your own, and like you're watching, you're just like, damn. Like, damn.
Even now, 30-something years later, you're like, is it a ridiculous outfit? No, it's awesome is what it is.
Alright, well, that's our show. This is our normal show for today, but we're going to preface that by saying that this week we're having a special show to preview Comic-Con, which is this weekend. So we wanted to dedicate this show for this Magic Mike review, our Cinema Cinco. Please check out all of our Cincos, because they're really, really cool, especially if you appreciate dance.
Absolutely. And we'll try to get the links on here so people can see some of those obscure shots.
Exactly. But no, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you when the credits roll.
Bye.